What can be said about the mighty Entombed? Their sound is influential, they're threatening, they're heavy, they're a quintessential death metal band any way you look at them. Of course, we're going to be talking about their first 3 albums here because these are the Unholy trilogy of Entombed's albums. From the fantastic, awesome, classic Swedish death metal of Left Hand Path, to the darkness of Clandestine, and to the death and roll of Wolverine Blues. Each of these albums, they're known for their awesome artworks, their great productions, and their influence throughout the metal scene forever.
This album is the definition of flawless and perfection. From the artwork, to the songwriting, to the production, to the time period, to the riffs, to the solos, the atmosphere, and the musicianship involved. It just exceeds in every single way imaginable. I mean, this thing cannot grow old. I spent a weekend one day listening to this thing over and over again just to see how many times that day I could listen to it. Ended up listening to it 10 times, and I heard something new every time. I still hear new things every time. I've been listening to this thing for years and years. Oh my god! Anyway, so this is the full dynamic range version. I love the cover right here. It's really sleek. Look at the back right here. Looks really cool. This infamous cross artwork with the band right here. I've always wondered why Earache never pressed a version of this album with the 2 bonus tracks on the vinyl. I mean, there is the Brazilian version with that, but it's a little more expensive, and plus this one just sounds better anyway. And how does it sound compared to the CD? Well, it's more spacious, definitely. It's clean, and no pops whatsoever, and it sounds really good. Here's the insert, black vinyl, of course. Classic Earache insert. I'm having trouble adding anything new to say about this album, so it speaks for itself. Just listen to it. It's incredible. It's one of my favorite albums ever, period. Now, we can talk all day about the album, but it would do no justice unless we were to mention the Boss HM2. This beast is unreal. I will never, ever use another distortion pedal ever again. And I can't believe that Boss took it off the line for the MT2 Metal Zone. It's a great pedal, but maybe they should consider taking off the many overdrive pedals that nobody wants and putting this thing back up there. No other guitar company or guitar pedal have been able to replicate this exact sound, but Behringer came pretty close with the HM300, and that's a lot cheaper, but I wanted the real thing, and this is the Japanese version too, so it works, it's really good. "1991 would prove that Entombed was not finished, wreaking havoc among the metal world with their sophomore album, Clandestine." Look at that artwork! It's beautiful! It fits the album perfectly. It fits the album's sound. I mean, look at this, so much detail. Once again, just like in Left Hand Path, Dan Seagrave does the album artwork, and even the back of it looks pretty cool. It looks kind of like Through the Cracks of Death by Abscess, right here. Anyway, but this album, just like Left Hand Path, it has the guitar sound, the buzzsaw sound, but this time the mids are higher. So it's not quite as heavy, but the heaviness is more in the drums, which are higher in the mix. Also is a different vocalist, because LG Petrov was not in the band at the time, and so the drummer, Nick Anderson, took place in vocals. Not quite as heavy, not quite as brutal as a vocalist, but they still really fit with the style of music, and they fit better on their next album, which we will get to. Although for a brief period of time, the vocalist from Unleashed was in the band, and he was going to do the vocals on this album, but he's only credited as the vocalist because Nick decided to take over. However, he does sing one line on this album. I still have a lot of trouble spotting it. Fans will often debate whether this album is better than Left Hand Path or Left Hand Path is better than this one. And the answer is, it depends on what you want from the band. See, this is a darker album, but also the song structures are different. While not more technical, the songs are longer. Personally, I have to be in the mood to listen to this album. The whole album is a masterpiece, and it's a pleasure to sit through, but like I said, sometimes you have to make some time for it because the songs are a little long.
I just love this picture of them on the insert. It looks really good. And how does this album sound? It sounds fantastic, as you expect. So far, I haven't really been disappointed with the full dynamic range reissues.
"1993 was a big year for metal anyway. It was the year that the Earache and Columbia collaboration went on. Carcass pioneered the melodic death metal scene with Heartwork. At the Gates were starting the Gothenburg scene in Sweden, and Morbid Angel was becoming big and making music videos on MTV. So maybe it can be expected that Entombed would also bring something new to the table. And they sure did bring something new to the table with Wolverine Blues, starting the death and roll genre. It's death metal with a bluesy, groovy, rock and roll type of vibe to it. It's the same version as Earache's full dynamic range, however, Century Media produced it and gave it some extra stuff, like this poster right here. It's a gatefold, it's a double 10-inch with a red and black splatter, and it's limited to 500 copies. They did the same thing with Bolt Thrower's War Master, which is also recommended because that version has all 10 songs on the album. The cool thing about this version is that the samples that had to be taken out due to copyright reasons in any press after the first pressing, those were put back into this. This album is so much better with these samples, and for years and years, I've been used to listening to the CD version without the samples. But at least Earache didn't do what Marvel did and just take the whole final song off the album when they released it with an X-Men comic. Not many fans like this album and still prefer the style of the first two albums, but I personally love it. Maybe it's an album that's gotten better with age. Besides, this is the album that made me decide to buy a wah pedal. I know, this is a weird album to inspire somebody to buy a guitar pedal, right? I just love the way the guitar player uses the wah pedal in some of these songs. And here we have the Ibanez Weeping Demon. It's versatile, it can play guitar and bass, it's built well, it's inexpensive, and as a guitar player, it gets the job done.
So it shall be. Entombed has revolutionized the Swedish death metal scene. From Wolverine Blues onward, they would continue to do the death and roll style. And now they have been reincarnated into Entombed AD.
Their mix of styles, their sound, their influence, they've all influenced a lot of bands throughout the metal scene. The albums are awesome, but they speak for themselves, so take a listen. The left-hand path shall be followed into eternity.